Hey guys, for this service, my client wasn't exactly sure what she wanted. She just knew that she wanted to be cooler and a little bit less grow out. So keep watching to see exactly what it is that we came up with. All right, here's my client's before. My client has very, very dark hair. I would say she probably has some of the darkest hair that I've done. She's probably really sitting at a true level 2. Everyone else is mostly at like a level 3, 4. She's very, very dark naturally. So what we're going to mix is my Schwarzkopf Blondie with 20 volume and Olaplex for her service. So she's very dark underneath, and because of that, we are going to do a full foliage today for her service. She did have a price range that she wanted to stay within, and I told her that we'd do what we can to stay within that service. I kind of went over, but I still honored the price. It's just because of how much of the underneath and how dark her hair is and how thick it is and all that stuff, that we needed to go through and do a little bit more lightening than I really was planning on. But you always want to make sure that if you talk about a budget with your client, you want to make sure that you honor that and do what you can to stay within that price range. So anything that I do beyond that is just, that's on me. I just wanted to make sure that we can talk about that and make sure if you talk about a budget with your client, make sure you stay within those price ranges that your client is comfortable with. So because she has so much underneath that needs to be lightened, I was going to stay more just right on the hairline, but I realized that she has so much growing out underneath that we are going to go a little bit heavier in the underneath section. So we're going to go through and do kind of a zigzag parting on either side of her hairline. And normally I do like a really fine weave, but I want this to be a little bit like streakier and chunkier. I don't want it to be so blended that it has a little bit more of a grow out line or like more of a line of demarcation. Sometimes I feel like if you do a streakier, chunkier weave where it's more piecier, then the grow out line is a little bit not as heavy. So I feel like doing some like stronger weaves and back combing it is going to create a little bit more of a dimensional hairline where there's like more streaks and pieciness versus like super blended and heavily lightened underneath where it might grow out a little bit more. So we're going to do her hairline and do a little bit more of a defined weave underneath on either side, and then the very bottom will connect the two, and this will ensure that when she pulls her hair up that she's gonna have some nice pieciness coming up into like her, I don't know, I don't want to say like money piece section underneath, but because like that's not even a thing. But you know what I mean? When somebody pulls their hair up and then they have those really pretty just streaks underneath, having those larger weaves is going to help her have some more pieciness when she pulls her hair up, whatever. I mean, look at how her hair truly is so dark. Like when I was looking through her hair before we started, I really couldn't get over just how truly dark her hair is. She has a very flat, very one-tone dark color hair, where I feel like a lot of clients, even if they have dark hair, they might have like some redder tones in the hair or some lighter brown tones or whatever, but her hair really truly is just like a flat, very dark color. It's really, really pretty. It's a rich, really rich dark color, but I really feel like it is truly like a level 2. It's a rare occasion that somebody with that dark of hair comes in. So anyways, we're just going to finish up these foils around her hairline. We're going to pack them in there a little bit more just to make sure that she has that nice coverage for when she pulls her hair up. Also, I want to say really quickly, you can see the ends of her hair are sitting probably at like a level 7, 8, probably like an 8. So my goal for lightening her hair is not to get like super blonde or anything. Like we're not trying to go really, really light. I don't feel like we need to do that, especially since we're trying to like tone down to like an ashier color and blend her hair. Like she really wanted to stay under a certain price point, and part of that also means that we can't lighten the rest of her hair to be like a lighter blonde, or else that's gonna cost more money for the extra bleach and the extra time to lighten through the ends, whatever. So we're not trying to lighten her roots lighter than what the ends of her hair is. So we're really just going for like a level 8 lift. So that being said, I'm kind of doing faster, like thicker sections of hair because I know that the lift that we're going for is not like a level 10, like super ashy, icy blonde. So I wanted to throw that out here because usually with really, really dark hair, anyone that's sitting between like a 1 to 3, 4 range, do not take this service, and my application is not how you would do a color for an application for somebody that's wanting like super icy white blonde hair. We're going for like a caramely lift. So my application, the pieces of hair that we're picking up is going to be a little bit thicker and not such fine sections as I would do if it was somebody that was going for like a super like icy blonde tone. So just keep that in mind. You're seeing me work on a client that we're going to tone down to like an ashier tone. We're only going for like a level 8 lift. So just know that if you're trying to do this application on somebody that has dark hair, but they want to be like super blonde and like super icy or whatever, do not do your application in this manner. These sections are way too thick. The weaves are way too thick of a section to be able to get a lighter lift. So just know that right now that we're only going for a level 8. If we were going for like an icy cool level 10, my sections would be much thinner, less, the subsections in between would be much smaller too. So there's a big difference between, you know, the level of lift that we're going with versus somebody that wants like a level 10 lift. The application would be much different. So I just wanted to throw that out there so that you guys were aware. Doing a thicker weave like this is perfect for somebody that wants to be like a level 8 or below. Anybody that wants to be like a brighter lift, you need to take much finer, thinner sections. All right, even though I said I'm doing a chunkier weave for my foiling, I want you to pay attention. Watch when I do this weave. I'm going to do weave, 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 skip a section, weave, weave, weave. So these chunks that I'm doing, there's like basically 2 chunks of what it looks like, but you'll see a little bit better when I put it up on the board. Look at those 2 strands. Those 2 strands have like little miniature weaves in between both of those 2 chunks. So what's that going to do is make it to where even though it's 2 defined pieces of hair that we're doing for like a larger dimensional piece, because I'm doing like a few really fine weaves within that big chunk, it's still going to blend a little bit more. Like we're not doing just like weave, skip a space, weave, like 2 really big like chunky weaves. Within each weave, we're doing like really fine little weaves. So that way it's going to create more of a blend. So even though it's a little bit dimensional and more high contrasting, those like little weaves within each of those like chunks. I'm from like the early 2000s, guys. Okay. Like that's what we call them, chunks. You like look through some of these weaves out on the board when I lay the hair down, you'll see that it has like fine little weaves between each chunk of hair. So I just wanted to point that out, where I'm not just going through and doing like super chunky weaves. Each weave each chunk has like little weaves within it to help it blend a little bit more. I hope that makes sense. Does that sound crazy? A chunky weave, a chunk versus just like a straight chunk. It's got a weavy chunk. I don't know. But yeah, I was like, I've been doing hair for like 17, 18 years. I don't even know. And so like, that's what we called it. We just called them chunks. So I think this last weave that I did, you could see a little bit more if you rewind it. I was talking and rambling, so I missed it. You know how it goes. But anyways, just pay attention when I do my weaves. You'll see me weave really, really, really quickly, skip a space, and then weave really, really quickly for that next chunk. So anyways, that's about it. All right, y'all, it's coming up. Pay attention. I'm going to do this weave. I'm going to go weave, 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 chunk, weave, 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 chunk, weave, weave, weave. So watch when I put this foil down, you'll be able to see that within each of those like chunkier pieces, there's like little weaves within it. And I'm going to lay the foil down. You guys will be able to see a little bit more. And then also back combing it is going to soften it at the root. So even though it's chunkier pieces of hair, it's still going to be a little bit softer at the root and grow out nicely. So anyways, just wanted to make sure you guys saw that a little bit more clearly this time. Also, now that we're getting to the top crown area, you'll see that my subsections are much less. So that's just to make sure that she has a really nice blend. I want to make sure that she has the good coverage that she wants for her hair. So again, this is another perfect like dimensional, weavier, chunkier foil right here too for you guys to see. So I just want to make sure you guys notice that as I'm getting closer up to the top of the head, where more of her hair is going to be showing through instead of the underneath it where, you know, we just kind of want to break up her roots. As we get closer to the top, this is where we want to put more of our detail work in so she can see more of those like streaks in the hair, whatever. So I want to make sure that I have good coverage. So I'm going to be doing less of a subsection in between these last few foils in the back section. All right, so now we're going to go through and do our hairline foils. And her hair is really, really fine around her hairline. So that makes me kind of nervous. Like usually I'll start my foils directly like on the hairline to start the service off in my application. But sometimes I like to do the back section first. But then before I start putting in the side foils or the top, I'll go through and do the hairline first. And if somebody has really fine hair that I'm worried that it's going to sit for a long time and potentially get damaged, then I'll do this section after I do the back. And I'm also using the same bowl of bleach. So even if it's like 20 volume and you feel like it's the hairline foils, it's really fine. Why are you going in with such a stronger bleach? This bleach has been sitting for like an hour at this point. So it's really weak and it's not going to be like damaging to the hair. So if it does happen to sit for a while, even though the hair is much more fine, because the bleach has already been sitting for a while and it's a little bit more weak, it's not going to cause any damage, and I don't have to worry about it sitting for like an hour or 2 hours or whatever. So on this side of the head, you guys are going to get a better view. So the other side, I just showed you like the first view, but I'm going to show you the full application on the side here so you guys can see a little bit better. And this is going to help her have a little bit more of a natural soft grow out, even though we're going in what looks to be like a heavier weave, heavier baby lights or whatever. She's still not going to be too bright or anything. It's going to blend really nicely with the soft baby lights that we're doing. So I think just because her hair is so dark, it looks like it's a little bit heavier, but it is still like really, really fine of a foil that we're doing. And she did say that she wants to have a little bit brighter of a money piece this time. So we do kind of want to do a little bit more of these foils around her face just to give her a little bit more of a money piece for the summer, if it ever shows up. I'm from Washington, y'all, and this, I mean, what is going on? Do you know that we are just days away from the longest day of the year? And we've literally not had hardly any nice days this whole spring and summer. Like, Lord, I'm sorry, but what is going on? After the 21st of June, it's all downhill from here. So if we're working our way up to the longest days of the year and it hasn't even been really nice at all, then after the longest day of the year where it starts to slowly decline to a torturous rainy season in Washington and the godforsaken Pacific Northwest, and we already haven't even had any sun in spring, somebody called it January because that's what it feels like. It feels like January in the middle of June. That's what we're dealing with. Anybody that thinks that they want to move to Washington, don't do it. Okay? It sucks. Stop driving our house prices up. Places is getting out of control. Y'all need to go. All right? I love you, but it sucks up here. The weather's horrible. Don't come to Washington. I'm sorry, guys, rant over, but if you're from Washington, then you know what the hell I'm talking about. And sometimes it deserves a rant. So anyways, we're going to go through and do her money piece right on top of her forehead. And we're just going to do a few fine little foils, some fine weaves for the first two foils. And then the last foil, we're going to do a chunkier piece and back comb it. So that way it's a little bit softer at the root. I don't want her to feel like, even though we're doing a brighter money piece section, I don't want her to feel like she just has this huge like chunk in the front. So that last foil that we're going to do where we're going to back comb it is going to soften it at the root a little bit more. So it's going to be a little bit brighter directly on the hairline. But that last foil that we're going to do is going to be a little bit rootier. So it's going to help blend out the money piece from just being like too chunky or too strappy or too bright or whatever. It's going to soften it up just, a little bit further beyond the hairline. So this is what we're going to do for our money piece, and then we're going to blend it up into the roots. All right, we're going to work our way up the side of the head, and because we are going a little bit brighter right on the hairline, she does like the dimension in the hair, so I feel like we don't need to do a whole bunch of heavy lifting on the side. So that first foil that we're putting in, working our way up the side of the head, I'm taking like a triangle section and weaving it. So she's still going to have a lot of her natural dark falling between the hairline foils and this section that we're doing now. So these foils are basically just going to break up like the depth within her hair. And we're going to do it on a diagonal section, so that way whenever she pulls her hair back, if she does it like halfway up, she's going to have that blend, where if I just went straight across, then it would be more like a like a stripe going towards like the back section of the hair, where if it's more at a diagonal, then it will kind of have more of a softer blend and it will get more coverage on a diagonal versus just straight across. So as we work our way up to the crown section of the hair, we're still going to leave some decent amount of subsection in between the hair because, again, we're not trying to do like an overall lightening service. She still wants to be rooty and maintain like her natural tone. That way she doesn't have like, you know, a whole bunch of grow out or whatever. She still wants to be able to go like every 4 months. So her goal is not to like have to feel like she has to come back like in 2 months or anything like that. So we're just going to go through, and as we work our way up the sides of the head, we're going to be doing larger subsections. But once we get to the top, we're going to be doing our foils a little bit closer together. All right, for these next few foils that we're going to do, working our way across the top section of the head, we're going to go through and do some weaves and back comb it slightly. Some we're going to back comb, some we're not going to back comb. That way we'll have a little bit more dimension as we get closer to the root area. Some will be a little bit more rooty, some will be a little bit brighter up to the scalp. And then we're going to just foil these pieces a little bit closer together as we make her way across where she parts her hair. And that's going to make sure that she has good coverage and she parts her hair either right down the center or just slightly off to the side. So when we make her way over to that section of the hair, I always like to make sure that I'm putting a few foils in closer together. And so my weaves are going to be a little bit more fine because we're going to be getting less of a subsection, so I don't want it to feel like too overwhelming of a bright section in her hair where she's going to feel like overly lightened or whatever. So these last few foils, we're going to go through and do them a little bit tighter just where she parts her hair to make sure that wherever her hair falls, she has nice coverage. All right, so this foil here, you can see this is where I'm starting to put them in a little bit tighter, closer together. So you can see how much more fine this weave is in comparison to the other ones. It's going to be a little bit softer, so that way wherever her hair falls, since they're in a little bit closer together, those last few weaves are going to be much more fine. So here's her lift. She sat for about an hour lightening, and this is about how she lifted pretty good. This is exactly kind of where we wanted her to be. She blends pretty good with the ends. I don't want to have to run lightener through the ends to cause any damage or anything. So this level 8 lift is exactly where she needs to be. So we're just going to pull the foils now. Okay, so my client wants to have some lighter, cooler tones, but she's at like a level 8, but sometimes these ashier tones really do a good job of canceling out the warmth. So I'm thinking maybe the 7 one and the 9 one and the 8 will do a good job of canceling out that warmth. So I told her we'll just start with the lightest shade possible and then work our way down because ashier tones tend to look a little bit darker anyways. So we're just gonna we're gonna throw in this 9-1 first to see if we can keep it a little bit lighter. And then if not, if it doesn't tone it down enough, then we'll try the formulation without the 9 to see if it cools it down then. All right, did that make sense to you guys? So the pictures that she showed me, ashier tones they don't reflect light. So when you show somebody a picture with ashier hair, it's always going to look a little bit darker. But when you zoom in on the lightest pieces, even though they look a little bit darker, you can see that they actually have to be lifted quite a bit. Well, we're lifting at like a level 8, so we can't really have like super icy white hair. However, the picture that she showed me, the ends, there were some like really super light ashier tones. So I told her that we'll just see how we can tone the hair. So throwing in that level 9 is to help it, to see if we can tone down the hair even with a level 9, even though that's lighter than what she is. But because it's ashier and going to tone down and appear a little bit darker, sometimes those lighter ashier tones can tone down something that might be a shade or two darker. With the Schwarzkopf anyways. Like, I would never do that with Paul Mitchell because I know it won't give the coverage, but I feel like Schwarzkopf does a really good job, the ashier tones, of really canceling out the warmth, even if it's like a shade lighter. So I told her to try to preserve as much lightness as possible, that we will start with adding a 9 into the formulation, and if it doesn't tone it down enough and if it's still too warm, then we'll go back through and cut out the level 9 and tone back down with just the 7 and 8. All right, you guys, I'm leaving this part of the video in because I think it's important for you guys to see that even me, like everybody always second guesses their formulation, and it's okay to acknowledge that and explain to the client, I'm feeling like I need to add more warmth to my formulation. Like, I always feel like I put enough warmth, and then it's always too blue or too gray or too green tone. And it looks really pretty right now, but I feel like I know what's going to happen. Okay. I feel like I know it's going to go too ashy or cool. I need to just go throw some warmth back in the formulation really quick. Okay, so I went back through and I just added a smidge more of the 8-0 into my formulation. And I'm glad that I did, because how many times have you guys seen in my videos where I'm always like, oh, I'm just going to use the ash. And then I'm like, oh my God, why did I use the ash? Or why did I use the 2-1 series? Because that always goes so green or so ashy. Like, even if I just use a quarter of it in my formulation, it's so overpowering. These ashy tones in the Schwarzkopf is like, they're so amazing. But like, if you don't mix correctly, it can like overtone and really grab as like a true ashy, like gray, green, whatever. And so that's what I was afraid of happening here. And so I told her that I feel like I just need to go back and throw some of the 8 natural back and add that some more warmth back in to the formulation. Even though she has a lot of warmth in her hair, it doesn't matter. There's been lots of times where I've thought in the past where my client had enough warmth in their hair to counteract the ashiness of the formulation. And then sure enough, her hair turned out still too ashy. And then I had to clarify it, pull out the ashiness, whatever, and it turned out fine. But it's just the fact of having to take like an extra 15 minutes to like try to fix the formulation or whatever. So I knew what was going to happen. And I just told my client, I'm sorry, I need to step aside. I feel like I know what's going to happen. I don't want your hair to over process and go too ashy. So I'm going to I need to just adjust my formulation really quickly. There's absolutely nothing wrong with saying that and explaining that to the client. They'd rather have you do that. I mean, or don't even say anything and just walk off and fix it really quickly. Like, you don't need to address it and say anything. Like, just take care of it. I more so knew that I wanted to throw that into the video so that you guys could hear and see that it's okay to do that if you need to. If you feel like there's something wrong or something's not right in the formulation, start at the nape of the neck, let it process for 5 minutes, see how is it grabbing, is it starting to turn and grab really ashy or whatever. Go back and adjust your formulation, you know, even if you're halfway up the back of the head, like, it's okay. Just make sure that you guys adjust your formulation if you ever need to. All right, when I do my toning, it's usually really crazy. Like I usually throw a whole bunch of random things together. So for her dark root shadow, I know that I needed to add all of my level, like, let's see, I did some level, I had straight 9. I think that's tossed somewhere. I ended up using all of 9. I did just a little drop of 9, a little drop of 8. I added half of my formulation was probably like a level 6. I added just a smidge of the 755 for her root shadow, which is the gold extra, because we have to fill the hair back up as we're going back down, or else it's just gonna look muddy. And then I ended up using just a smidge of the 521 because this can go very gray and green if you're not careful. And then I used a good amount of the 616. So I know my formulations don't make sense to you guys a lot of times, but that's just how I do my mixing. I'm sorry. So just think like the majority of my formulation level 6 and the 616. And then I ended up throwing in a smidge of the 755 to fill the hair, and a little smidge of level 9 and a little drop of level 8 just to add those levels back in the formulation, to bring the 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, so that we're filling the hair back and adding those levels as we do the root shadow, or else it's gonna you can't put have a level 9 and then just all of a sudden drop down to a level 6 or something. It's gonna look muddy. And then I also used my Agora Vibrant 6 volume, so that's on her roots right now, and that's gonna process for about 20 minutes. All right, guys, sorry, I'm kind of backward when I'm doing this. So I didn't have my camera with me when I was mixing her color for her root shadow. So I already applied it when I recorded that. So that's everything that we mixed together. So I don't know if that makes sense to you. If you're lifting the hair to like a level, if you have like a level 8, 9 hair, but you're going to tone back down to like a level 5.5, 6, you can't just go like 9 to 6 because there's nothing in the hair for the toner to hold onto, to grab onto. So it's going to fall out really easily, or it's going to look muddy, or the color's going to look shallow, or whatever. So you have to add level 9, 8, 7 natural tones or golden tones back into the hair, because that's what our hair lifts to naturally. We have a lot of warmth in our hair as it lifts. So if you pull that out, but then you're trying to tone down, there's nothing of those levels that's in the hair to hold onto. So you have to add that back into your formulation. So that's what I was saying when I literally just do like a few little drops of the 9, a few little drops of the 8, a few little drops of the 7. And I didn't have like just a natural, but adding more of a golden tone will help the formulation out and help the color be a little bit more richer. It's going to help it hold a little bit better. And then adding those ashier tones is going to neutralize it and cancel it out. So just because it's like a smaller portion of the formulation, having like the copper or gold or neutral tones, it's not going to be like overwhelmingly warm. It's still going to cool down nicely. So just make sure, I just wanted to elaborate more, a little bit more on that to hopefully help you guys understand. Sorry, I don't know if it was confusing or not, but so we're just going to go through and apply this on the roots, and then just the last few minutes, I don't really want to touch the hairline with it because I want to try to keep that as bright as we can. So I'm just going to tap it at the very, very end. So we're just going to go through and finish our application on the roots and make sure that you comb through the whole length. And by the way, this is processing at the same time as the other toner on her hair. And I kind of did that on purpose because I know that this can go a little bit darker. So because I already have that other toner on there, I feel like that's kind of going to help it prevent it from going too dark. So right now you can see I'm just barely tapping at the roots just the last few minutes just to get that little bit of a shadow to help it blend a little bit more. And here's the after color. So you can see that root color really helps it blend, toned it down really nicely. And then the rest of the hair has, you know, a slight beigeier tone to it, but it's still really cool in comparison, and everything blends really nicely. And you can see those like dimensional chunkier pieces are standing out a little bit more, but because you can see that it has those teeny little bits of weaves in between, even though it's a little bit chunkier of a color, it still is pretty soft and, you know, not like such a big streaky lighter tone in the hair. So sorry, like all this is kind of bouncing around, but sorry if that formulation was kind of confusing. But that's just kind of how I mix my colors, is a little bit of this, a little bit of that. So we're just going to finish off with the styling, and I think the color turned out really good. She wanted something ashier, but then she felt like last time we went really ashy, and then when it faded, the warmth was so much more apparent. So we tried keeping her hair cooler this time, but with a slight warmth to it. So that way when the toner does fade out and the warm shows through, it's not like, it's not going to feel overwhelmingly like too brassy or anything. So that's basically what the end goal was, is to make sure that she was cooled down. She was like, oh my God, I didn't really know how to explain what I wanted. She was really happy though. She's like, I felt like I couldn't even be clear on what I was trying to tell you what I wanted, and you were still able to do it. So that made me happy that she was really happy with her hair in the end. Who here likes those chunkier pieces? Like, I actually really like more of a high contrast color. Like, sometimes when the hair is too blended, everything just like mutes together, and there's nothing that stands out that makes the hair just feel like so pretty and whatever. I mean, it can be really pretty, but I really like those ribbons of color. I feel like it gives the hair like a lot more dimension. She likes being able to see more dimension and ribbons in the hair, so I'm glad that we were able to accomplish that all while still blending in with her roots to make sure that in the end she's not going to have like a crazy amount of grow out, like, you know, like you can see that she had last time, because, you know, it was just too light all over. So she was really happy with the way that the color turned out. Definitely a lot cooler, much more blended, and her growth's going to be a lot more softer this time. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you liked the video. Hope you like those chunky weaves, chunky ribbons of color in her hair. And there's her money piece, so you can see that's a little bit brighter, but not like too crazy or chunky in the front. So it's like the early 2000s hairstylist in me, you guys. We're going to throw the word chunky in there every now and then. So thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys liked the video, and don't forget to like and subscribe.